Have you ever wondered why the people with the most money often say the least about it? It's a strange paradox in a world obsessed with wealth. We see flashy displays on social media, and in celebrity culture, we read about billionaires and their latest ventures. Yet, for many of the truly affluent, money is the one topic that remains firmly off limits. It's the elephant in every room, the unspoken number that defines so much but is rarely uttered aloud. Why is there such a profound silence surrounding personal fortunes? This quietness is not accidental. It is a carefully constructed and deeply ingrained behavior. The silence of the wealthy is rooted in a powerful mix of emotions. Fear is perhaps the most immediate. There is the obvious fear of being targeted for theft, scams, and frivolous lawsuits. This practical concern leads to high walls and private security, but there is a deeper, more personal fear at play. The fear of social alienation. They worry that their money will become a barrier, preventing them from forming genuine relationships. It can turn friends into supplicants, and family gatherings into tense negotiations. There is also guilt, an awareness of inequality, and a sense of unease about privilege. They know their comfortable lives stand in stark contrast to the struggles of many. This creates a moral burden and a feeling of undeserving. For many wealthy individuals, the habit of silence is not a choice made in adulthood. It is taught early. In old money families, discretion about finances is a core value, passed down through generations. Children are taught that talking about money is vulgar, not done. This isn't just etiquette, it's a cultural identity, a coded language that replaces dollar amounts. They learn to recognize class by subtle cues: clothes, posture, schools, vacations. A comment about a summer in Maine or a winter in St. Moritz says more than a bank statement ever could. This coded language allows them to connect with peers without mentioning dollars. They are trained to be stewards of family fortune, taught responsibility and restraint. Often lawyers and wealth managers handle the details. Money becomes abstract to the heirs. They are surrounded by wealth yet conditioned never to speak of it, a lifelong reflex. This learned silence becomes a marker of insider status, a social passport. Beyond psychology, there are intensely practical reasons to stay silent in the digital age. By not sharing wealth publicly, they reduce their public profile. They become less of a target. Silence is the first line of defense. It pairs with physical security measures. This isn't just about paparazzi. It's about real dangers to families. To maintain privacy, they use legal structures, shell companies, trusts, limited liability entities. Homes and assets are often held behind layers that make ownership hard to trace. Jets and yachts might be owned by companies with no obvious link to an individual. That makes it difficult for the public or journalists to connect the dots. They hire firms to scrub the internet and to curate a modest public image. Non-disclosure agreements are standard, for staff, trainers, tutors, forming a bubble of silence. Privacy is an active security operation, a constant, professionalized effort. Leaks are treated as serious breaches with legal consequences. That's how the fortress holds. Silence about wealth isn't only defensive, it's a source of power. Discretion lets the wealthy wield influence behind the scenes, away from public scrutiny. When dealings are private, it's easier to navigate politics, business, and philanthropy without spotlight. Quiet donations can shape politics. Discreet investments can steer companies without public fanfare. Philanthropy done quietly avoids an avalanche of requests and preserves control. Power brokers act where the source remains unseen. Influence without attribution. Discretion signals belonging and earns peer respect. Ambiguity about resources is a negotiation lever. It prevents anchoring and preserves advantage. Whether real estate or prenuptial talks, ambiguity leads to better terms. This tactic is taught in business schools and practiced at the highest levels. Quiet gifts shape cultural and research institutions without public debate. Some attach names to buildings. Others give anonymously to exert influence without spotlight. That quiet influence can steer research, art, and social policy in non-transparent ways. Withholding financial information is a way of holding on to power. I once spoke with a woman who lived on Park Avenue in a sprawling apartment filled with museum-quality art. She was deeply involved in fundraising and never mentioned specific amounts. She spoke about needs and mission. The silence relied on shared understanding and peer pressure, to ask without naming numbers. Everyone gave according to means. Naming numbers would be a social blunder. Another man sold his tech company for 9 figures and moved back to his Midwest hometown to reconnect. He found dinner outings awkward. If he paid, friends felt uncomfortable. If not, he felt guilty. He downplayed his wealth, drove an old car, avoided talk, but silence created distance. Silence left him with a sense of inauthenticity, a gilded cage he couldn't open. A wealth manager told me his first instruction to a big lottery winner was, tell no one. Not friends, not family, not co-workers. He quietly quit and moved where no one knew his story. His silence became his salvation. He built a new life free from jealousy and demands. In elite private schools, families all understand wealth is present, but they don't talk about it. Silence maintains a semblance of equality. Talk would make things competitive and ugly. The unspoken rules preserve social cohesion within affluent circles, at the expense of honesty. The silence of the affluent does not exist in a vacuum. It shapes how we all think about money and class. It creates a void of information that is filled with speculation, fantasy, and resentment. When facts are absent, rumor and glamour step in. We see extravagant consumption and assume it represents the whole. Their absence from public conversation makes policy debates, taxes, inheritance laws, social safety nets, harder. If those at the top remain abstract figures, it's easier to demonize or ignore structural causes of inequality. The taboo around money trivializes pay transparency and perpetuates wage gaps by gender and race. It discourages openness that could lead to fairer pay and better financial literacy. We need spaces where all backgrounds can talk about money without shame, teaching budgeting, investing, and retirement planning. Normalize honest, practical conversations when openness helps and when discretion is wiser. In a culture of oversharing, practice being deliberate about what we reveal. Be inspired to break your own silence. Start difficult but necessary conversations about money and class. Their silence is a symptom, offering protection and preserving power, but also creating isolation and obstructing progress. Don't emulate their silence. Open a window instead. A more honest dialogue is the cure for inequality, for isolation, for the myths that silence breeds. Their silence has shaped society, but by learning when to be discreet and when to speak, we can change the conversation.